Hi, and welcome to the A-List. My name is Kayla Flam, and today I have with me Charlie Trotter, a famous chef here in Chicago. Thank you for being here today.
Well, thank you for inviting me.
All right, to start off, when did you first decide to get into the restaurant business, or what were your inspirations to?
You know, I was probably like a lot of young people. I really didn't know what I wanted to do when I grew up, but I used to cook for my roommates in college, and I loved it, and it was a great challenge, and I would follow these recipes very meticulously. But then after college, I thought maybe I'll just try to become a cook, and one thing led to the next.
So what you would say that's your inspiration? Like, did you grow up with food, or was it just in college that you first?
Well, actually, I didn't really come from a family where food was also important. My mom was a good cook, but not necessarily a gourmet cook. We really never went out to any kind of fancy restaurants or anything, but again, in college, once I began to go to markets and farmers markets and round up ingredients and cook, I decided, hey, this is pretty interesting. And you know, you're going to eat the rest of your life. You may as well make it interesting, right?
Mm-hmm. I know that in the restaurant business, there are many different. It's a lot different than other types of industries. But one thing is spage. Could you explain what that is?
A type of
spage, I believe it is. Like, I believe it's like the young chef will work with a.
You know what? I think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
It's a French term,
Mm-hmm.
and it's called. Well, the French refer to it as a stagiaire. We just shorten it up and call it a stage. And what that means is that someone might come and spend anywhere from 2 weeks to 1 year. And it's sort of an unpaid apprenticeship type of position. So they will come and, young man, young woman, come and work in all the different stations and possibly even work in the dining room. But it's beyond cooking school, but it's before they really explode into the field. So it's the stage position, and I think it's just one more part of learning, and it's very advantageous.
Did you ever do that?
Well, I didn't do an official stage. But I did go to many restaurants and say, can I just work here for free, or I just want to learn? And I always looked at it like, you know, I think it's important that one is not so obsessed with what's going to be my wage or my title or anything else, but how much can I learn, especially when you're young. It's all about embracing knowledge. So to answer the question, didn't really do an official stagiaire position, but did oftentimes work not even concerned about money and worked for free.
Where did you work? Like, what were some of your early jobs?
Well, my very first job, I was 16 years old, and I worked at a restaurant in Wilmette, Illinois, called the Ground Round. And back then, these were restaurants where they'd put these peanuts down, and you were encouraged to like throw the shells on the floor and everything. And even when I was 16, I thought that was a fairly reprehensible sort of thing to do, and I was trying to sweep up the shells, and the manager would stop me and say, "Young man, this is part of the ambiance," and I would say, "No, this is not so acceptable." And but even then, I sort of had the bug for restaurant life, which was about service and helping other people and doing things for people before they could even ask for things. And then during college, I worked as a waiter and a busboy in a couple different restaurants, and then after college, decided I just want to be a cook. So.
All right, where did you go for education? Did you go to be a chef, or?
Well, I never went to a official culinary school. I mean, I'm a graduate of the University of Wisconsin, and studied just liberal arts, philosophy and political science, and which to this day helps me with what I do. And some people say, well, how does that apply to cooking or running a restaurant? And I say, well, it applies quite a bit, because when you're in college, you have a chance to take classes and read great books and maybe learn how to think critically about things and analyze things. And so to this day, I cherish my undergraduate education in liberal arts, because it does apply to what I do in terms of running a restaurant.
All right, so when did you first get started with Charlie Trotter's?
Well, thank you for that question, because next summertime we celebrate 20 years of Charlie Trotter's. We opened up in the summer of 1987, and I can't tell you, when we first opened, when we made the first year anniversary, I thought, I can't believe it. We made 1 year. It's shocking. And then 5 years, and then 10 years. But now 20 years in this business is a nice milestone, and something we're very proud of, because we don't feel like we have become jaded or comfortable or tired with what we do, we feel still very invigorated. We're still a very youthful organization, even though in the restaurant world 20 years is a good amount of time.
Yeah. Would you say that it's hard to make your first year?
Yeah, because you don't, you've got to get people to come in, and you've got to push it and groom a staff and everything. And there's a statistic that the National Restaurant Association puts out, which is basically 9 out of 10 restaurants that open each year fail. Wow. It's one of the toughest businesses. And so when we made the first year, we thought, gosh, this is a nice little thing for us, and then we kept going. So.
All right, well, we'll have to wrap it up there. We'll be right back after this. Hi, welcome back to the A-List. I have Chef Trotter with me. So to get back to your restaurant, what do you think was your main inspiration for it?
Well, after I'd cooked in restaurants for about 4 years, I took a trip to Europe, and I visited marketplaces and bistros and some of the really spectacular restaurants. And I visited a particular restaurant in Switzerland. At that time, it was considered maybe the greatest restaurant in the world. It was called Freddy Girardet restaurant. And for the first time in my life, it struck me that this was a place that tried to elevate the cuisine and the ambiance and the service and the wine program all in equal measure. It was almost like a lightning bolt or an epiphany, as it were. And I said, you know what, I want to go back home, and that's the kind of restaurant I want to try to open, a restaurant where it's not just food, or great service, but the food's okay, but everything is elevated. And so that was the big thing that inspired me to open, way back when we did.
All right, can you tell us about the menu that you have there?
Well, we specialize in something that is known as a tasting menu or a degustation menu. That is, it's made up of roughly 10 courses. So there's no one focal point. Everything sort of builds, and we kind of get to the final savory dish, and then have several dessert-type preparations, and featuring only natural product, organic product, seasonal product, and using esoteric ingredients like organ meats or different kinds of unusual shellfish and things like that, but weaving things together in ways that are sort of recognizable, but hopefully, if we're doing our job well, decidedly different.
What do you think would makes it different than other restaurants?
Well, I'll be honest with you. For the first 15 years that we were open, I kept thinking, got to be number one, and then I realized that being number one is fine, but maybe that's not the greatest thing. Maybe that's not the most enlightened thing. And I read an interview with the late Jerry Garcia, of course, the main person behind the Grateful Dead, and he was once asked if he wanted to be the greatest guitar player of his generation in these kinds of rock and roll bands, and his response was, well, I don't want to be the greatest at what I do necessarily. That's fine if I am, but it's more enlightening to maybe be the only person that does what I do. That is, to be original. And so after I read that, I thought that is a more profound approach to things. And so we just try to be unique unto ourselves, and to not emulate or copy anyone, and to be absolutely original. It's a much more important kind of goal for us.
So what is your philosophy of service?
Oh, my philosophy of service is this whole idea of imagine if everyone that you took care of, and if they were family members, how would you treat them, or how would you serve them, versus a total stranger, just because they may compensate you somehow. But and if it were to be a family member, you'd probably go even further. And service happens in all aspects of our lives. I mean, whether you go to a convenience store and buy a sandwich and a drink, and how the person behind the counter treats you, or let's say you come in to the airport and you take a taxi cab home, and how that driver may treat you, and is he only blaring his own music, or is he being respectful and everything else. And so service is something that happens in all of our lives every single day, and service is hugely important to me, especially since I've been a server and a bus person and a dishwasher, and so I can relate to how significant that is as far as the dining experience goes.
Can you tell us about like the stress that comes on when you open a restaurant?
Well, I think stress is something that you can bring upon yourself, and I'm someone that I don't look at it like that. I look at it like I can't believe I do what I do because I make a living doing this. I would do this for free, for nothing, and I look at everything that comes your way as a wonderful challenge. Hey, this happened today, and I could get mad about it, or I could be frustrated about it, or I could say, all right, let's learn from this. Let's take something that's a challenge or a problem and bring it from here to here. So it's not so much stress, it's more, I guess it's more like problem solving, but that happens in all aspects of life. I mean, it could happen as a student, it could happen as a parent, it could happen running a business, it could happen going to law school, anything. And so it's how you turn it into a positive that I think matters.
Can you tell us how location is important?
Well, that's a great question. Oftentimes you hear this old phrase when you want to open a restaurant, or nowadays almost any business, location, location, location. And I think there might be something to that if you're in a busy kind of area, or if you're kind of in a maybe a hotel environment. In case of a restaurant, you get a lot of traffic. But I also think if you do something well enough and you stick to your principles and stick to quality and integrity, you could be on the dark side of the moon, as it were. You could be 40 miles out of town, and people will still venture for that because people, I think, yearn for quality and they yearn for excellence.
All right, well, we'll be right back after this. Hi, welcome back to the A-List. I have Chef Trotter with me. So besides your main restaurant, Charlie Trotter's, do you have any other businesses or restaurants?
Well, we have a restaurant down in Los Cabos, Mexico. There's a wonderful resort there, the Palmilla Resort, the oldest resort in the whole area, built in 1956, and they underwent an extravagant renovation about 3 years ago, and when they reopened, we took over all the food service, meaning the in-room dining or room service dining, the casual food at the poolside, and then the fine dining restaurant. And it's been a great exercise because I have to go down there about every 6 or 8 weeks and change the menu and work with the team and all that. We also have Trotter's To Go, which is our takeout store, and it's meant to not necessarily be a boutique or Epicurean kind of thing, but more of a everyday for folks that don't have time to cook, don't want to cook, don't know how to cook, but want clean, quality, pure food conveniently. And so you can get a spit roasted chicken or different marinated vegetable or noodle or grain dishes and be in and out in 5 minutes and have dinner ready to go. So that's been a great thing for us.
Where's that located?
Well, that's located 1337 West Fullerton, pretty much just on the north side, the Lincoln Park or DePaul University area.
And where's your main restaurant located?
Main restaurant's pretty close to that. It's about a mile from there, Armitage and Halstead. So also what's referred to as the DePaul neighborhood in Lincoln Park.
Do you do a lot of charity work, or is there?
Well, actually, thank you for that question. We do an awful lot of charity work. At least once, twice a month, I'm cooking some kind of dinner for a charity. Additionally, another day of the month, we do a dinner in someone's home where they have paid an extravagant amount of money to a charity or a cultural organization, Lyric Opera or Goodman Theater or Steppenwolf Theater, Joffrey Ballet, and we'll go and in exchange for them donating the money, do a dinner in their home. Most interestingly, though, we have something called the Excellence Program at the restaurant, and 3 nights a week we welcome Chicago high school students for a dining experience, but it's more than that. It's more about lessons in life, and it's about sharing this idea that in life, if you want to achieve something, it's about you get what you give, and if you want a lot, you got to give a lot. And we have young folks from all over, mainly public high schools in the city, but we have suburban schools, we have some private schools. In the summer months, we have firefighters and police officers, and we have women from battered women's shelters, all different groups.
That's very interesting. I know you do a lot. You have some books out there too.
Well, it's true. We've got a number of books. Probably at this point, it's 14 different cookbooks and some management books, and that's a way to kind of express what we do and document it.
All right. Can can you tell me about Let Us Entertain You, and what do you think about them? And they have multiple different restaurants all throughout the year.
Let Us Entertain You is a brilliant organization. Founded by the legendary Richard Melman way back. I think it's coming up on probably 30 years that he started the company, and they bring a lot of different kinds of concepts to the restaurant scene. And they may say, we want to open a tapa restaurant, the sort of Spanish nibble on different appetizers to make up your meal sort of experience. We want to open Italian, we want to open fine dining French, we want to open this. And they research it, and they kind of put it forth, and they've really done an amazing job. I mean, it's one of these legendary companies, and it's so great that they're from Chicago, because there are restaurateurs from around America that come and try to study what they do, or work with them for a while, and then go back to New York City or go to San Francisco and try to do the same thing. So I think right now they probably have at least 40 different restaurants that fall under different kinds of ideas or concepts.
All right, I know Foie Gras was in the news a lot. What are your views on that?
Well, I guess I've become sort of the de facto poster boy for the no foie gras movement, but foie gras is a fatted liver from either a duck or a goose, and about a little over 5 years ago we stopped serving foie gras, and I had visited 3 different foie gras farms, and I just, what I witnessed was less than pleasant, and I just felt that there are so many other great things to eat, we don't need to serve this, and it kind of exploded about a little over a year ago. And people were wondering why we weren't serving foie gras, but for us that was old news, and we don't try to foist our views or approach on things upon other people. But I get called all the time by PETA magazine and various aldermen and people from around the country, and would you come and do this, or can we write about you? And I say, I can have nothing to do with you. I mean, this is what we do. We have more of a live and let live philosophy. So.
All right. What's the importance of sustainable agriculture?
Well, there are a lot of farms that, sustainable farming involves rotating crops and growing things that are in season, and not using pesticide or growth hormone or things in the soil. And some people even go so far as to have different kinds of insects that will eat other insects, and it's really fascinating. Sustainable farming is not exactly the same as organic, although the two overlap quite a bit. But the good thing about sustainable farming is that the key thing is rotating crops. For example, if you were to plant spinach again and again and again, 4 years later you'd have the soil pretty much depleted from a nutrient standpoint. But if you plant spinach a couple of seasons, and then turnips a couple of seasons, and then tomatoes a couple of seasons, you're able to have the soil itself replenish itself and remain nutrient rich, and that's a big thing about sustainable farming.
All right, well, we'll have to wrap it up right there.
I've got like 4 more hours to go.
We're not done yet.
Oh, okay, all right, great.
We'll be right back. Hi, welcome back to the A-List. I have Chef Trotter with me. So can you tell me the importance of wine in a meal?
Well, we've long advocated the idea that wine is not so much of a alcoholic beverage, but it's a foodstuff. And if you have the right wine with the right dish, the two things can mutually enhance each other. So if I'm eating roasted chicken and wild mushrooms and some raviolis, if I've got a certain kind of red wine, the wine will make those flavors explode even more. And whereas if I'm just sipping the wine by itself, it might be fine, but if I'm eating some food with that wine, the wine will even be better. So we've long advocated this idea of food and wine pairing, and we have an extensive wine collection. Certainly the old vintages, I mean, 1900 Chateau Margaux, and you open this thing and you're sipping it and you're thinking, gosh, what was happening in the world when this wine was made? I mean, who was president of America? What war was being waged somewhere in some far-off land, or what was happening? And so to me, wine is something that it's to be shared. It's a historical thing, and there's a lot of, wine's been made for thousands and thousands of years, and it's pretty spectacular, and we just try to uphold the tradition. It's also about the right kind of stemware and everything else.
Is there any other types of like food service or whatever that you uphold that we haven't talked about?
Well, you know, I'm a big believer in all aspects of the experience, and it is an experience. And someone walks through the front door, but it begins at the curb when the doors open, and welcome to the car door is open, but welcome to the restaurant, and they come in and they're greeted, they're taken to the table, and maybe it's a special occasion, a birthday or an anniversary, or maybe it's a business outing or just a dinner out. And then what happens throughout the way, and you try to, it's almost like playing a game of chess. You try to figure out what somebody wants before they even have a chance to articulate that. And a lot goes into it, from the wine or beverage service. There are people that don't drink, and we have non-alcoholic, we make juices and infusions and essences and things like that, to little things that happen along the way. And it's all about generosity. You've got to really give, and then it becomes special for people.
All right. Have you made any appearances on television shows or anything like that? Or?
Well, thank you so much. I mean, this is a great show. I'm delighted to be with you. I've been on a lot of the different morning shows, Good Morning America and Today Show, and Regis and Kathy Lee and Regis and Kelly and others, the early show. But we also have our own TV show. I don't know if you know that or not, but it's on PBS, and it's called The Kitchen Sessions, and we film it at the restaurant, in the restaurant kitchen. About every 18 months, we film another 26 episodes. So we've done 3 seasons of that. We try to take the intensity and show what that is in the restaurant kitchen. 25 chefs running around and plating something or showing some technique, and then, in a sense, deconstruct it in our studio kitchen, which is adjacent to the restaurant itself. And then we sort of make it very, I think, understandable for the home cook.
Do you create food that you cook at your restaurant, or do you do other stuff? Or? Well,
it's mainly things that we do at the restaurant, and we try to say, okay, here's a dish with pigeon breast and black trumpet mushrooms and this exotic curry emulsion sauce, but now let's go over here. And then for the home cook, we don't, they might not have access to or want to have pigeon, so let's use chicken breast instead. Black trumpet mushrooms, well, it's hard to find those. Let's use regular button mushrooms. Curry emulsion, can't always make that so easily. Let's just make a curry vinaigrette. So we sort of take a restaurant idea and make it approachable or doable from the home cooking perspective.
All right. When did you come up with this idea? This is 3 seasons you've done?
Well, we've done 3 seasons, each with 26 episodes, and we started this probably 1996 or so, I would think. So about 10 years ago. Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. Do you have so what are your plans for the future with your restaurants?
Well, we're just about to celebrate the 20th anniversary, so it's a big thing, and my objective is not so much horizontal growth, that is opening one after another, but more vertical growth. How can you take one thing and refine it and refine it and refine it and grow it? And to me, it's still so interesting that I'm willing to do this I don't have a big plan, like, oh, in 4 years I must be doing this. It's more like, let's keep on. It's like a little jewel that we polish, kind of thing. So.
All right. Well, I'd like to thank you for being on the show today.
Well, I'm honored that you even invited me, and so thank you for having me.
All right. My name is Kayla Flam. Thank you for watching The A-List.